Welcome to Unwinding with Support Group, a mental health podcast by licensed professionals where we discuss mental health topics from a real world perspective, all while having a drink. So hang out, have some laughs, enjoy the ride, and maybe learn a bit. All right, welcome to another episode of Unwinding with the Support Group. As usual, I am Arlene and I'm an LPC. Today I am drinking coffee. I know, not my normal, but we're recording a bit earlier than we normally do. So coffee it is this day. But we have a special guest with us today. Our person of the day is Tara Mae Temple. She is an author of Life Hacks for Healing and Harmony. She is passionate about women's issues, and today she's here to talk with us about her journey and what she's learned along the way. So, Tara, thanks for being with us today.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here, Arlene. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to write a book? Let's start there.
Yeah, so basically, I was the type of person my whole life that would bottle things in. I've always been introverted and shy, growing up as a minority person in Canada. Like I kind of kept my thoughts and my emotions to myself. And over time, as you go through hardships and challenges in your life, that builds up and creates internal conflict. And I know it did with me with, a variety of things, self-image struggles, being bullied as a child in grade school, and just having comments about, my outward appearance within my culture as well. So, like a lot of those things had shaped me into just kind of being quiet and not confronting any issues and just kind of brushing things off. But over time, when you suppress that, that can make you, become resentful and angry. So I think it was around the time of, I think shortly after the pandemic in 2021, I just started writing, having a journaling practice of all the different things that I've gone through in my life, whether that be loss. Anxiety was a big one that I dealt with for many years as a career woman and raising a young child. And I split all those chapters up, not knowing at the time that it was going to become a book. And so basically, it was just me getting my thoughts on paper and just cleansing and purifying my mind, body, spirit by expressing my emotions on paper. So eventually, that journaling became turned into storytelling. I turned these people. Myself into different characters that was dealing with different things and showing the reader how they can overcome these different things that we all deal with as humans, whether that be fear and uncertainty and dealing with our egos and our dark sides as well. So over that time, 2021 to 2024, I was doing research and reading up on a lot of books and listening to a lot of podcasts similar to yours to kind of help me put everything together on ways I could develop some harmony strategies to help overcome some of these issues and live a more peaceful life in my day to day. And I could say that it really worked. And, over time, the stories evolved. And I thought, why not to be vulnerable and make these characters just myself? And every chapter is basically standalone, whatever you're dealing with in a given day, week, or month. You just flip to that chapter and it's basically a guidebook showing you how to navigate life's challenges with whatever you're dealing with. So yeah, I'll stop there. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm interested. You mentioned like you were looking at, some of those strategies to live that harmonious life. So can you share some of those specific strategies you discovered and how they've helped you?
Yeah, of course. I love that because, anxiety was a huge one. Some people at times don't know how to articulate that they are going through some anxiety, and it kind of feels like it's paralyzing and suffocates you and you feel short of breath, and people experience it in different ways. I had, a fast heartbeat. I felt like my breathing was shallow all the time. And what really helped me with that was doing the 4-7-8 breathing technique, where you breathe, you take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, and then you release that breath for 8 seconds. So doing that on a loop, like 5 to 10 times or more, really helps to, get your nervous system into a balanced state, and really helps to make your breathing more manageable and less shallow. So, I that really helped me a lot. And then getting in touch with nature again. What helped me was getting out in nature for 20 minutes, um, 20 minutes at least 3 times a week. And that's the magic rule. I read this book called Comfort Crisis, and they're talking about in that book, how we're all in our comfort zones, and these comfort zones can sometimes really affect our mental health and emotional state and well-being, being stuck in these comfort zones. So they did a study of a group of people that were dealing with different issues, whether that be chronic stress, depression, anxiety, um, other health issues that they were dealing with, like high blood, um, high cortisol levels, and all these things, and high blood pressure. And what they found was when these people were spending 20 minutes a day walking through nature 3 times a week, and then that really helped to bring down their levels and help them feel more at peace. So I believe what it was called the 25-3 rule. And so the 20 is the 20 minutes, and then the 5 signifies 5 hours um, a month in wild nature, and then at least 3 days a year in wilder nature. So going um, camping in the forest, or somewhere where you go camping and you're totally unplugged from, your phone and the outside world, and just getting in tune with nature on those camping adventures. Um, so yeah, that's something that can really get you back in touch with Mother Nature and help you feel grounded, and can really slow down those racing thoughts that we all have. So those are just some simple ones, but there's also mindfulness that was a big game changer for me, where you go for a walk and you say a little mantra or affirmation to yourself. And one that works for people dealing with different um, conditions was, you could go for a walk and say this phrase, where you say, "May I be happy, may I be healthy, and may I be free from suffering." And you say that over and over again while you witness all of the things around you. You use your senses to see what you're observing as you're going for your walk. And you're saying this mantra to yourself. And that has been shown to be very effective in many studies. Um, and it's I believe a Buddhist kind of ancient practice as well, mindfulness, and it's been known to really help people. I know it's helped me a ton, and it's really helps you get back in tune with your harmony.
I agree. Mindfulness is amazing.
Oh yeah.
I also like that you brought up like being outside in nature. And one of the things I often, say is like sometimes you just got to touch grass,
Oh yes.
right?
Oh
Sometimes
yeah.
you just got to go outside and touch grass. So, I'm with you on what you're saying about just being back outside in nature, and it just is so grounding. So I'm identifying these as really good things as well. So that's awesome that you found those things for you as well.
Yeah, it's and like you said, like touching that grass, it's a matter of, when you can get out of your own head and use your senses to really feel what's around you, that can put you in the present moment. So for people that are struggling with mental health or emotional struggles, that really makes a big shift in helping you to see, you're safe right now. You can put your feet or on the ground or touch the grass, and you can have these little micro moments of peace, and I highly recommend it.
Same.
Yes.
Same. Especially because we're inside and we're busy a lot and work and life and sometimes just getting outside and remembering there's life outside of your own uh is
Yes.
super important. So
Yes, it definitely is.
awesome. So you're all I know you're passionate about advocating for women's issues and serving others through your writing. Um
Mhm.
In your book, Life Hacks for Healing and Harmony, you outline 3 elements of ease framework. Can you explain these elements and how they collectively contribute to the inner peace and harmony?
Yes, great question. So yeah, when I was doing the research and implementing some of these strategies myself while I was going through a healing journey, I found that the top 3 components that really help a person to heal and transform and come back home to themselves is the 3 elements of ease framework. And the first one is change your environment to promote healing. And then the second one is reframing your mindset. And then the third one is having compassion for yourself and for others. Now, for the first one, we talked a little bit about that when it comes to changing your environment. Sometimes people are unconscious of the fact that their environment could be causing more stress and anxiety. So that's why I make the recommendation in the book to get in contact with nature again, and start slow, see how you feel after that, but really assess your environment and see, is there something in my environment that I could change if you can. For me, I moved residences. I got out of the city because the noise and the chaos and the nonstop fast pace of life was eating away at my soul. And it was kind of adding more fire to the fuel when it came to my anxiety. So I decided to, with my family, to make a plan to move to a smaller town that was a slower paced life. And nowadays, I know people are wanting that. They want more of a simple life where they can have a more slow paced life. But if you're the person that, you may not have the means right now to move residences out of the city or out of a town you don't like, um, look for little things that are in your town or city that will have those green spaces or little ponds, or an experience where you feel like you could be a part of nature. And a lot of places just have parkland or just an open field where you could just go for a walk. So that's one way of changing your environment. And another is, if you don't have a pet, consider getting a little furry pet that'll can give you some companionship and take your mind off, any struggles that you're facing. Because we all know that either having a cat or a dog, or it could be a lizard, or a little hamster or something, or whatever your pet of choice is. um, just petting your pet and talking to that family pet can release that oxytocin that you need, to not be so focused on that anxiety or mental health issue that you're struggling with. So that's the first part of that. And I go into it more in the book for that first part of the framework. But moving on to the second one, is called reframing your mindset. We all go through ruminations, and we all have, it's a human nature to have negative thought patterns. And some of us don't know that we don't have to believe in every thought that comes across our mind. But these thoughts can be, distorted, and they can affect our relationships and our lives. And they could also lead to self sabotage if we don't, discipline that mindset. And we could go in a spiral and believe in every thought we have, and that really can put us down in the dumps and make depression worse or anxiety um, magnified. So, what I always propose when it comes to mindset reframing is, say, for example, you have a bad thought that you didn't want to think. When you notice yourself feeling that, I go through this process called negative thought cancellation, where, say, you think the thought, for me, it was nobody likes me. So I catch myself having that thought and I pause. And the first step is to pause and be aware that you're thinking that, and then give your hand a little pinch. And it's a little pattern interrupt for your brain to think, okay, why am I thinking that? But right away, when you do that pinch and you have that pattern interrupt, I want you to think of, you know, visualize a positive thought that can override that very negative thought. So for me, it was, I could say a phrase, I am kind and I am loved. Um, of course, people like me. And you can say that phrase out loud at least 5 to 10 times, or you can write it out 5 to 10 times. And then if you're a highly visual person, think about these words kind of, being written in the sky with a heart balloon eating up that bad thought of nobody likes me. And, it sounds sort of silly, but it's a matter of disciplining the mind and using that technique to get your mind off of ruminating and focusing on that bad thought, because we all know that, when you focus on a bad thought there or something that's negative, it has what you focus on can grow and expand. So what you want to do is grow your positive thoughts, and really practice this as much as you can, even if it's just for a couple seconds to start, and then moving your way up to like a minute or two, to override that thought. It really was a game changer for my life. So there's that, and there's much more in the book that shows you how to do that. But the third one, I'll just be very general about. For the third framework, it's having compassion for yourself and for others. And what people do is, we make mistakes and we beat ourselves up for, you know, messing up on something that you, whatever it may be. But what we should do is have compassion for ourselves, because we're here on this earth as sort of a life class. And if we fail at something, I want you to know that you can have enough love and compassion for yourself to overcome that. And give yourself some grace, because if you're constantly beating yourself up for something not working out, that kind of like negative heavy energy will flow into not good states of being. So when you can have compassion for yourself and know, okay, yeah, didn't do so well on that, or I failed at that, it's okay. You can get back up and do the best that you can and move on to whatever else you're doing, and learn from that current thing that you think you failed at. And I think when we can give ourselves compassion like that, we can move away from self-sabotage and trying to ruin our lives or damage our relationships. Yeah.
For sure. The self-compassion one, man, that is something that is so hard for a lot of people. So I love that that's covered in your book, because it's such an important piece of growth and healing.
Yes, it sure is.
We are often our own worst enemies in how we talk about ourselves and think about ourselves. So learning to step away and give grace and talk to ourselves like we talk to a best friend.
Yeah.
Perfect. Like that's so important.
Yes, and that's so true. It's that having the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And so if we could treat ourselves kindly, you'll see all the blessings and goodness come into your life if you could just put your needs first. And you could still be kind and compassionate to others and put yourself in their shoes, but it comes to, when it comes to healing, it starts with you.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
Yes.
So interesting. I love this that you also tackle cultural impacts in your book,
Yeah.
particularly around your Filipino heritage and issues with body shaming, which I love that you do because I think that's so important. Can you discuss how
Yes.
your framework specifically helps um, at different stages of these struggles?
Yeah, I love that you've asked that, because if you're a woman or any person that has dealt with, someone making a comment about, your outward appearance or your body, this could help you. And for example, I'll give you a story. Like growing up, from my Filipino culture, it's kind of people kind of say things in passing where, they would say to me, "Oh, you look like you gained weight, or you got bigger, or maybe you should watch what you eat, because you look like you gained weight," right? And for a younger child, like when I was growing up, I didn't know what to make of it. I thought it was kind of odd, like, okay, why is this like extended relative making a comment about my body? Shouldn't she be worried about herself? Like why insult a child? Or and then you know growing up, I harbored so much resentment and anger towards that, and I kind of just bottled it up and said, like, it's a common pattern that I see with people in the culture, just saying that to people. And it's not only women in the culture that they would fire the comments at, it was also men. Like, "Oh, like, you got fat, what happened to you?" Like, it's, I guess it seemed normal at the time. um but that's something that could build up and really have an effect on your self-esteem, and make you question, like, you know I don't look like everybody else. I'm not the ideal kind of girl. I was Filipino Canadian growing up, um, sort of like as a minority, and my parents had immigrated to Canada in the 70s. I was born and raised in Canada, but I've always felt like I didn't belong somehow, because of, I didn't look like everybody else. And to, top that off with just having the different layers of being from a different ethnicity, and then having the kind of body shaming as well, that really brought down my confidence, and led to low self-esteem. Um, so yeah, no, I find that at the time I did not understand it. When I was a child, I thought, that's just what, Filipino people say. But as a grown up, having studied social behavior and sociology, I can now look at this through a lens of, like, the person firing the comment was, they probably were told that when they were growing up as well, and they thought it was normal. So now they're firing insults at other people. And I've always learned to kind of look at things from another person's lens, like putting myself in their shoes. And I thought, like, okay, I can't take these comments personally anymore, because obviously that person is dealing with their own self-esteem issues. And it's a matter of just projection. So I use my lens of being compassionate for people that do the body shaming, instead of coming from a place where, oh, I want revenge, and I want to, come back and say some big insult to this person to get them back. Like, some people would want that revenge. And through my storytelling in my mind, like I would kind of play out those thoughts of what would I have said if I were strong enough to deal with that comment at that time. And my younger self would have said, maybe you should look in the mirror before saying hurtful things to someone else and judging their appearance. And judgment is a big thing that people may be fearful of, and not like. People are always worried about, okay, or is this person going to judge me and whatever. um, but no, like, if you could put yourself in the shoes of that person and say, like, they're just dealing with something themselves. Is there a way that we can be non-judgmental of them and have compassion for why they're like that, and then just let that go? Because when we hold on to it, that's when resentment and anger builds up. And my whole premise about attaining harmony is learning to let go and seeing like the other person's perspective. So that's the way I look at it now. Instead of just being angry at how people are, I try to you know put that all into perspective in that way.
That's awesome. That takes a lot of practice and a lot of growth. So that's really great that you can do that. And I think it's important to recognize, right? Like not everybody means that in a mean way.
Yes, exactly. And not to take it to heart. Like, when someone says something to you, it's not necessarily the truth about who you are. So if you can flip that script a little bit, and know that what people say isn't hard truth. As long as you know who you are, you're a good person. Then you can move on.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you also talk in the book about the monster within and how everyone has like a dark side.
Yep.
Can you share some strategies that help people say goodbye to their damaging character flaws? And what do you mean when you say the monster feeds off fear-based emotions?
Yes, that's a great question. So the monster feeds off fear-based emotions is basically, when I did some reading about what our negative thoughts do to us, it's almost like having a parasite in your mind that feeds off drama and conflict that is, going through your emotions. So it seems like the more conflict and drama that's created in your life, the mind and the ego feeds off that, and it kind of gets sort of like an adrenaline rush, having all that happen. And there's just something in the brain that makes people, you know, want to be like vengeful, or want to engage in conflict with others, because they have this little dark voice in their head, the monster that tells them thoughts and ideas and beliefs about themselves and others that aren't necessarily true. Some people may be threatened by, you know, being judged by others, or someone saying a comment or something about them that's not necessarily true. And that's why I always come back to mindset reframing. If you have a negative thought about yourself, or you feel like you're being judged by someone, and that judgment is not accurate about the type of person you are, write down what that judgment is or negative thought is, and cross it out, and then replace that with a positive idea or affirmation about yourself. And what it is with having a monster is, every human being has this duality, right? It's like this. You have a good side that wants to do good in the world and be kind to people, but then there's also that side, that ego side, that wants to be right all the time, or um wants to get back at someone for being hurtful towards them. So the way I try to position it is, anytime any of us are feeling this way, and we feel our monster kind of coming out of the jar, and wanting to be argumentative with somebody, um, do that negative thought cancellation that I talked about earlier, where, you say you're feeling that emotion of wanting to get back at somebody, or saying something that could be hurtful, to just, express your emotions. So use that negative thought cancellation to interrupt that pattern thought. Be aware of of what you're feeling. And then do pinch your hand and replace that thought with something positive. Because I think what it is with all of us as humans is we can be quick to react when something triggers us. We can, it can almost feel like we're like an animal in a cage, and like if someone says something to set us off, we're going to go, find any way we can to get back at them. And with all the movies and media nowadays and the chaos happening in the world, there's a lot of people out there that would stop at nothing to yell at somebody, or get back at somebody and just express their anger in some sort of way, because at the moment it feels better. But then there's also at, and it's okay to express anger in a healthy and safe way. And I highly recommend it not to keep that anger in. If you need to scream into a pillow or go to one of those, what are they called? Those rooms where you kind of break things?
The rage rooms?
Yes, those. They say that helps. Just, get that anger out of your system. And just find ways, like that could be fun to kind of get your monster outside of yourself, is just to go to a rage room, scream into a pillow, or go out into nature and do like a really big scream. And that helps to get it out. That way people aren't directing their anger at a loved one or a friend or just some innocent stranger or bystander, right? You're directing it at something else, like an object or something that can help you just release that. And that can be very cathartic in and of itself.
For sure. I'm like, listen, sometimes screaming into the void is exactly what you need.
Yes, yes. Yes, it really does release everything. So, highly recommend that.
Yeah. What is your message for people who feel like they're at their wits' end, at the bottom, feel like giving up because everything feels too much, like they just can't bear it?
Yes. First of all, I want to acknowledge that, I've been there before. Everyone gets to a point in their life where they feel like they've hit rock bottom. Um, and, for me, it was my faith. When I felt at my lowest, I felt like there were angels and the divine kind of lifting me up and pointing me towards another direction to truly find my calling and purpose in this world. Because when you feel lost and you don't have that purpose, it's hard to get up in the morning. It's you kind of feel hopeless and you don't know what's going to happen in your future. But for me, what I highly recommend for others is to go on a self-discovery journey and really find what is my purpose and calling in this world. um, what really lights you up. Go back to the drawing board and look at your life and see, is there something that you were passionate about as a kid, that when you did it, it really lit you up, and you didn't have a care in the world and it didn't feel like work to you. And for me, it was writing and reading and just getting back to expressing my stories, and trying to put meaning to it and find a way to overcome some of my struggles through my writing, by not only expressing myself but using these words to show others that they're capable of getting out of that dark place. So which it could take a lot of reading, listening to podcasts like yours, Arlene, and people just learning through other people's stories, to figure out, okay, what is it that I want out of my life. Don't think about what others, what familial expectations people have of you. Say, for example, there could be some families that expect their grown adult child to be a doctor or a lawyer, or put them into this box of, this is what you should be. But no, this is about you. People are going to be disappointed whether you like it or not. People have their own opinions, but when it comes to your purpose in life, what really lights you up and energizes you, um, and makes you feel like you're giving back to the world and its people. And for example, that could be for a musician, it's their music that really uplifts people's souls, right? Or an artist that makes very creative art, that is their way of bringing passion and their expression of art and love to people. So I want you all to know that you all have a gift, and when you're at your lowest, explore what that gift is and what that purpose is, and map it out for yourself. Yes, it may not feel like it's you're going to get the financial returns that you want to be able to make a living off it at first. But if once you start doing it, there's just something about it when you do align with your purpose and calling and you start doing it. Um, all of your needs are met, whether that be financial needs, um, your physical, spiritual, mental, emotional needs. The universe and God just has a way of giving that back to you. So when you're going on this self-discovery journey, just keep doing what lights you up and have faith and trust in knowing that your financial and your basic needs are going to be met. And I had that trust the whole time I was doing my writing, because we all know that as authors and first time authors, it's we don't make a killing at a good living at releasing our first book, especially if it's self-published or whatnot. But I have passion enough knowing that it's going to help others and be a big blessing to others. And that's what the world needs right now, is just peace, right? And it starts with inner peace and acceptance.
I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Inner peace and acceptance. And I think it's amazing that you talked about purpose and how much purpose is such a fundamental human thing. And when you don't have it, how adrift you feel. So really, when you're like really at your wit's end, finding your purpose, uh, and committing to it makes such a difference. I mean, we need purpose like
Hmm.
on a regular basis, but when you're really feeling down, purpose is what helps you get out of bed in the morning.
Yes, and I love how you said that so eloquently, Arlene, because it just takes that one thing, however small it may be. That purpose is really the light at the end of the tunnel, and we may struggle with things by day to day, but I assure you that once you can align and tap into that purpose, it's definitely something that could really propel you forward and you know, take you out of a rut and really shift your focus from the struggle to what you're capable of in terms of reaching your greatest potential.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
man. It's purpose is such an important part of the human like experience that I don't think it gets enough attention and throughout people's general journey in living. So I'm glad that you covered that and like as you were talking about how important that is.
Yes, for sure. And I love it. It's because like if people can make that the foundation of their lives, like kind of start there, be focused on what that purpose is and just watch the goodness start flowing in, because the law of attraction, it's a real thing. It works, like once you put out goodness in the world with your purpose, things will naturally start to come flowing into your life, and you'll notice more joy and more ease and more harmony.
I love the law of attraction.
Yes, me too.
Um, uh, so you talk about in the book about continuing professional care for those with like serious mental health difficulties, and you share your own experiences openly. How do you see your book complete, like complementing traditional mental health treatments and therapy?
Yeah, that's a great question because, sometimes it's not a matter of just reading the book and putting it down. Um, how I saw my book was really as this sort of like guidebook to help people um, recognize what they're going through and not to shove that down. And sometimes with professional help, like going to see a therapist, it can be a rigid form of therapy. And, you go into like, your therapist's office or have a Zoom call, whatever, with your therapist and have that session. And then they have you work on a couple things to help you overcome what you're dealing with. But in my book, it's not, some people dread the homework that comes with therapy because they just don't want to deal with that. But through my book, when I was storytelling, I would open up each chapter with, a difficult story or lesson that I went through in my life. And I thought, everyone can connect through storytelling. So if someone can see themselves in this, woman who is me growing up with different, several, very difficult issues, whether that be identity crisis, self-image struggles, self-limiting beliefs, dealing with loss, grief, anxiety, and dealing with an illness of a loved one, or dealing with our egos or monster size, right? They could see themselves through my story. And then basically it's a really simple to follow step-by-step guide of what people can start doing to overcome some of those issues. And I always assure them in the book, it's not a one size fits all kind of strategy, but you just pick what works for you and then gradually build your way up. Start with one technique or one strategy and build your way up to two or three a couple months down the line. And what's in there, as well as I have journaling pages and writing exercises for each of the chapters. And one of them that was really important, we talked about finding purpose. And if you're feeling lost, that chapter can really help you map out what your purpose is, because I intentionally ask certain questions and then you write down your responses to those questions. And it really helps you design your life how you want it. And it will help you align to your purpose. So it's more of a practical guide, a practical toolkit that people can use. And it doesn't have to be read from start to finish in consecutive order. You go to the chapters stand alone. So whatever you're dealing with in a given day, you can go back, you can go to that chapter. And just read that on a given day, and it doesn't feel overwhelming because you're not forcing yourself to go through the entire book in a couple days.
That is awesome.
Yes.
Well, Um, Now, I know in Canada, where you reside,
Hmm.
access to mental health care might be a bit easier.
Hmm.
Some places and other places where universal health care is a thing, where access to mental health care is a bit easier. But here in the US, it's not.
Hmm.
Um, so what do you provide like resource wise for people who might not have access or can't afford to seek therapy at this point? Do you provide any like resources for people who can't reach that right now?
Yes, I love that you mentioned that, because when I was writing this book, I was trying to think about what kind of financial position are my readers in. They may not have the financial means to seek the type of therapy or healing service that they need. So, getting this book was more of like thinking about making it affordable for people. And in the book, I do recommend sources that are um, more affordable for people. And there's a lot of online resources that I provide in the book. And I think BetterHelp is one of them, and other online therapy sources. Um, that you can go to, like if you're dealing with grief and having lost a loved one, or a friend. I recommend a lot of grief resources in there, where you can find an online therapist that can help walk you through that and come up with a plan for you. So yeah, there's a ton of resources in there. And then I highly recommend, listening to podcasts like yours, Arlene. Like, it's very therapeutic. So that's another means of going through your therapy, is just listening to these stories on these podcasts. Because when I was going through my healing journey, you can tend to feel alone a lot of the time, but when you listen to the stories on these podcasts, you can resonate with them and really see yourself, um, in these stories, and then learn more than what you expected on these podcasts. It could be a life changer. And I'd have to say that, it really helped inform a lot of the things that I write about in my book as well. Because we connect through storytelling. So yeah, there's a ton of resources in there, whether it be meditations, online therapy, um, grief therapy, just getting involved in like the community, meeting different groups of people that are either new moms or people that are, say, you're a veteran, dealing with PTSD. There are groups out there, that will support you and want to hear your story. And you could, just by people hearing your story in these groups and communities, you can help touch a life and maybe even save a life. So, even if, like, a person myself, like, I'm introverted, but if when I get out there in the community and talk to people, at the local level, you feel like you're less alone, and we're all in this together to unite and lift each other up. So really consider, connecting with people, because you never know who you'll meet that will really, touch your life and help move it in a different direction.
I agree. That's so awesome. And I'm glad that you provide those.
Yes.
My last question: what lasting impact do you hope that life hacks for healing and harmony will have on your readers?
Yes, I just hope that people can feel, complete bliss, joy, and harmony within themselves, and know that, we're not going to get all the joy and the peace externally from other people. And we can't rely on all those things. Like, we can't rely on our family or our loved ones for all those things. We have to look within ourselves. And I want you to know that it's definitely doable. It can seem scary going on a healing journey, but, just going through it gradually, and, not forcing yourself to do things you don't feel comfortable with when it comes to healing. I just encourage you to, go through this book and, you know, engage in some of the writing exercises and really journal through some of the hard stuff that you're going through, because it's a great way of cleansing your mind, body, and spirit. And in life, we go through ebbs and flows of hard times and good times. But, it really is a great outlet to be able to, articulate the feelings that you're going through and express them in different ways that will not, rupture or damage relationships, but will, help you grow personally and put you on the trajectory to greatness, because you're all meant to have joy and peace in this world. You are, even though it may not feel like it, and you may have your own belief system, um, I really think that this book will help transform the way that you think about yourself, others, and, you know, show you that you're deserving of joy and peace. So that's my hope.
Awesome. And I lied. I have another question. In the
Okay.
spirit of the name of the podcast, what's your favorite tea?
Oh, yes. I'm happy you mentioned that, because I'm a big tea lover, and I have to say my favorite one is called milk oolong tea. And it's a Chinese tea, but it has sort of like a creamy, kind of light, milky kind of note with a little bit of like kind of like a floral essence to it. And there's just something so calming about it when I drink it, and kind of makes you feel like you can melt away your problems by just sipping on your tea. So,
Nice.
yeah, thank you for
Awesome.
asking that.
Fantastic. All right. And if they want to buy the book, if everybody listening wants to find the book, where do they find it?
Yes, it's available on Amazon. Amazon US and Canada, and I believe all the other Amazon marketplaces. But it's also available online at Indigo and Barnes and Noble and Waterstones and Books a Million. And yeah, I think there's a one called books.org that it's on, but the quickest and fastest way I believe is Amazon. Um, so yeah, and I have a freebie for your listeners if you're willing to
Ooh,
have it.
of
Yeah.
course. I'm sure
Yes.
the listeners would love a freebie. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. So the freebie is, so if you go to my website, it's www.terrasweetawakening.com. And so go onto my website and find the page called the book page, and then scroll down, and I offer a free chapter for you. So if you're not sure yet, oh, whether is this book really for me, just, put in your email, and a free chapter will be sent to you right away, and you could just download that onto your screen and read through it. But that's my gift for you all today, and that'll just give you a sense of whether the book is right for you. But maybe it could help you in some way and can take your mind off the chaos that's happening in the world right now. That's my hope.
Awesome. And I will link the website in the description below, so you guys will have just straight access to that as well.
Yes, wonderful. And if you need some daily inspiration, I'm on Instagram at Tara Mae Temple. So yeah, feel free to just look at the stuff there. And it's just some daily stuff that can really brighten your spirits and lift you up on a bad day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tara, I appreciate you so much for hanging out and talking with us about your journey and your book and all of the just everything that you've put into this. I really do appreciate what you're doing and just what you've put out there.
Oh, thank you, Arlene. And it's such a pleasure to be here. And thank you for providing this outlet and platform for your listeners, because I know everybody needs it nowadays. And I'm happy that I got to share my story with you and your listeners. And I really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you.
Awesome. Of course. All right, everybody, as usual, give us a like, a follow, a listen. Like I said, the website for Tara will be linked below, and we thank you for hanging out with us today. Thanks for listening to another episode of Unwinding with Support Group. Follow us on Substack. Give us a like, a follow. Give us a comment. Tell us what you hated, what you like, what you want us to talk about next. Let everybody know where they can find us too. But thanks for hanging out with us once again.